This is a video about Stoicism, what it is, what it can offer you, and why knowing some of its core principles can help you live a life that is more meaningful and fulfilling with less stress and anxiety. In addition, it could even help you specifically with your own career and increase the chances of you becoming financially independent. Stoicism is timeless, but it actually originated in ancient Greece and Rome around 300 BC. And as with many things that have survived over such a long period of time, it can easily be misconstrued or misunderstood. For example, some people think that Stoicism is about experiencing or having little or no emotion, but this isn't true. In fact, the central tenet of Stoicism is to live a life worth living, and the Stoics realized that you can actually achieve this by practicing the four virtues of Stoicism. They are wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice. Stoicism has evolved over many years, but probably the three major philosophers that helped shape Stoicism are Seneca, who was a philosopher of ancient Rome, Epictetus, who was actually a slave in Greece, and then we have probably the most famous, which is Marcus Aurelius, who is actually the most powerful man alive at the time and the emperor of Rome. So if you want to learn more about Stoicism and how you can apply it to your own life today, you basically have two different routes that you can go down. One is to study the classics or the originals, the people such as Marcus Aurelius who helped give way to Stoicism and shape its foundations, or you can take a more modern approach, which is to apply some of the same lessons and principles from the past, but done in a more modern format aimed towards modern audiences. And the main person behind this is Ryan Holiday. Ryan Holiday has written many successful books, but probably one of the best entry points into Stoicism, other than reading one of the classics, is either the book The Obstacle is the Way or The Daily Stoic. The Obstacle is the Way breaks down some of the core principles of Stoicism, separates them by chapter and topic, and then tells them in a way that is very accessible to modern audiences, but referencing original quotes and original lessons. The Daily Stoic then does a similar thing, although it breaks it down into bite-sized chunks where you can consume each one on an individual day, and there's an individual lesson with an explanation for each day of the year. The approach that Ryan Holiday likes to take and applies in both of those books is to break down each one into three major sections, which are perception, action, and will. Perception is all about how we interpret the events around us, and it puts a real emphasis on viewing things objectively and without emotional bias. Action is all about the decisions and actions we take, and it puts a real emphasis on the ideas of virtue and wisdom. And finally, we have will, which is our inner resilience and our ability to overcome and endure difficult challenges and obstacles. So why should we learn Stoicism? Well, the benefits extend not just in our own personal life, but also into our professional life and our careers. In terms of our personal development, it really helps with our mental clarity and emotional regulation, which in turn can reduce stress and anxiety. Also, in modern times, people spend a lot of time doing stuff without really considering why. Whereas Stoicism can help you become more intentional with your time, and this in turn can help you avoid or reduce the chances of regret. As we get older, we typically become more wise, and as we become more wise, we typically become more stoic. So although it does take time for some of these ideas, principles, and concepts to resonate and set within us, it does give us a glimpse into the mind of our older self. And therefore, if we can see things through the eyes or the mind of our older self, this can help us live in accordance with who we're going to become progressively over time. And in terms of professional development, Scott Galloway, on his recent book on how to become financially independent, includes Stoicism as a core area to develop and hone in order to reach this goal over time. This is because without developing the core skills of Stoicism, we're more prone to making rash decisions, misinterpreting our surroundings or our peers, or even missing some important cues for relationship building. So if you think you're ready to throw yourself straight into the world of Stoicism, probably one of the most noteworthy books within the entire field is Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. This is often cited as being one of the most thought-provoking and life-changing books ever written, so it's definitely worth trying to understand what to expect and how to go about reading it. The first thing to know about Meditations is it's actually a compilation of many journals or diaries stitched together over time, and they were never actually intended to be published. These were intended to be for personal use and just a way of gathering and reflecting on his own thoughts and philosophies. The benefit to this, of course, is that we get to peek inside the mind of the most powerful person on the planet at the time, and the Roman emperor, and we really get an unfiltered sense of what kind of things he was thinking of, what kind of dilemmas he had to worry about, and funnily enough, these actually are still largely applicable today because they're philosophical ideas rather than specific on politics or events at the time. Most versions of meditations are actually broken down into 12 sub-books, even though it's all contained within one individual print or binding. Most of these sub-books follow a very similar format, which is just a series of different reflections within a different field or topic. But the only one that stands out in terms of a different format is the first one, because it actually adds some additional information, which is who the lesson was originally learned from. So for example, at the very start of the first book, you will see an entry labeled 1.1 referring to the first entry of the first book, and then it will say my grandfather Verus and then another label, under which you will see the actual lesson that he learned. This starts off brief but becomes more in depth as the book goes on, but then when we reach later books, you will see that he omits this particular aspect and just focuses on the lesson as a whole. I don't think the order particularly matters in terms of which book you decide to read, but definitely it's the type of thing that you will expect to come back on and revisit over and over again. It's not something like a novel which you read once and you digest immediately. It's something that you can kind of reabsorb in bite-sized chunks at any point in time. The other thing worth mentioning is that because this book wasn't originally written in English, as it was published close to 2000 years ago, there are many different translations available, and although they all stay true to the source, they kind of go about things slightly differently, and you'll find that some of the language is a little bit more archaic in some, and a little bit modern and accessible in others. Probably two of the most recommended ones are the ones from Penguin's Classics, but the one that Ryan Holiday recommends is the one by Gregory Hayes. You will see many of these different variants and editions in lots of different bookstores, including Amazon, but you can also get it for digital download on Kindle and other devices, and usually at pretty low cost and sometimes even free. So my recommendation is, if you're trying to get into Stoicism, either start with Meditations by Marcus Aurelius or either of the two books mentioned previously by Ryan Holiday. Of course, the choice is entirely your own, and you may decide to instead delve into the works of either Seneca or Epictetus. I'm going to end this video with a quote by Marcus Aurelius, which is, "The things you think about determine the quality of your mind. Your soul takes on the color of your thoughts." So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did or got something out of it, feel free to like, subscribe, or leave a comment down below. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.